Hello everyone. Myself Dr. Veena RS, Associate Professor, Department of ISC, Danan Sagar Academy of Technology and Management, Bangalore. Welcome to the lecture video on Command Line Arguments and Lab Program 1 of Object-Oriented Programming with Java. Subject code BCS306A for third semester under VTU 2022 scheme. So let us see what Lab Program 1 is. Develop a Java program to add two matrices of suitable order n, and the value of n should be read from command line arguments. So before we write a program for addition of two matrices using command line arguments, let us see what do you mean by command line argument. So we all know that whenever we have to write a program in any of the programming languages, we have to first read the data, and that always constitutes to the phase that is input phase. Once the input is done, that means the data has been read. That data will give it to processing, and it will be processed based on the logic that we have written in the program. And after processing, the processed data is converted into information, which is also called as the output value, which will be displayed on the screen. So these are the three steps we all know to write in a programming language to reach the particular goal of the problem statement, we can say. So as far as the first step is concerned, that is input phase, we can always read the value through keyboard, that we all know. So in Java, we always read the value through scanner object. So we have to create an object of a scanner class. For that, we have to import the package called as java.util, and then we have to read the respective data type value via the object of scanner class, and that we have to store it in a variable. But do we have any other way also where we can set the values, where we can read the values for executing the program? So and the answer for such question is yes, we can definitely do that. So what is it? Is command line arguments. So command line arguments are the arguments that are passed at the time of executing the program. So we need not read the value through keyboard while executing the program. Instead, while running the program or while you give the command to execute a program, that time only I can pass the argument, and that argument can act as the input value or data. These arguments are passed from the console and can be received in the Java program and used as an input. These arguments basically provide convenient way to check the behavior of a program for different values. So suppose I want to check the behavior of a program of different values. I can pass all those different values as the command line argument, and I can definitely see how the program is working or operating or behaving as per the particular value. You can always say that as far as the command line arguments in Java are concerned, it is always of type string, and that is passed as the argument to the main method. And these arguments are separated by either space or tab or new line. So we can pass n number of arguments as a command line argument, and those arguments should be either separated by space, tab or new line. So let us see how you can pass the command line arguments, or where exactly those arguments are getting stored. So we all know that public static void main is the signature of a main method which starts executing the program, or which starts executing the program from the beginning. So here inside this main method, you can see args. So what is this args? So args is nothing but a command line argument, and that is of type string type of array. So you can pass n number of arguments in this particular variable. You can see, so args is command line argument of type array of string. See, I have just written a small example program so that you people can understand the command line arguments well. So we know that Java program, as it is a purely object-oriented type of programming language, every program should be written within the class. And the main method, which is enclosed within the class, is always called as a main class, and that should be of type public. So we have written a method called as within the class main. So we have created one public class main, inside that public static void main, and inside this main method, we have passed a parameter that is arguments, which is of type string. So if you pass any value while executing the program from the console, will be called as command line argument, and that value will be stored in the variable args. So I have written a one single statement here within the main method, system.out.println, first argument is arguments of 0. As we know, arguments is a type of array. The index of the array starts with 0. So the first value, whatever you pass as command line argument, will be always stored at index number 0. So arguments of 0 is the first argument. If you want to deal with a second argument, you have to make use of arguments of 1, arguments of 2 till arguments of n. You can do it. So simple program I have written here, which is going to just display what argument you have passed at first position. So if I want to execute this program, how will exactly command line arguments be passed from the user? So suppose that completely depends how you're executing the program. So whether you're executing a program through console by providing the commands, or you're executing the program in any of the IDEs like IntelliJ or Eclipse. Let's see, we are executing the program, suppose in the console, by giving the commands of execution. So whenever you want to execute a command on the console, you can compile first the program using the command javac. So javac followed by the name of a file. Name of a file will be always same as the class name. So as the class name is written main, the file name will also be main.java. So if there are no errors in the given program, main.class file will get generated, which is a byte code and which can be given to JVM for execution. And how do you execute a program if you have a command line arguments? So you have to provide the command as Java, followed by the class name, that is main class, and followed by the argument. So here I have passed the argument called as hello. So only one argument I have passed. So this hello as an argument will be stored at index number 0. So if you run this program using this particular command, you will see the output will be first argument is hello. This is the output, or this is the steps if you want to execute a program in console using the commands. But suppose you are executing a program that is Java program in any of the IDEs like IntelliJ or Eclipse. Suppose you are executing a program in any of the IDEs like Eclipse or IntelliJ. The steps will be something like this. You have to go to Run menu, click on Edit Configurations, and enter the command line argument separated by either space, tab, or new line in Program Arguments text area. And if you execute a program in IDE, again, you will see the output of the program is the first argument is hello, if you have passed the command line arguments as hello. So before we start writing the lab program number 1, that is for addition of 2 matrices, let us execute this program in the Eclipse or in any of the IDEs and see how the command line arguments can be executed. So I'll just take you to IntelliJ. So suppose here I have created a class named C1, which contains public static void main method. And here args is a variable. So this variable will act as the command line argument, which is of type array of string. So I'll just write here the statement as system.out.println. The message I'll give as first argument is double quote plus args of 0. A simple statement I have written. So if I run this program, I'll just show you that if you don't pass any values, what will be the output? I have not passed any of the command line arguments, right? So here you can see the exception in the thread will raise, which says that an index 0 out of bounds for length 0. Because as I have not passed any of the command line argument 0 will not exist. So I'm trying to access the value which is not actually there. So that's why exception has been raised and that has got displayed on the screen. So we have to set the command line argument now before executing the program. So I'll just go to Run menu. Click on Edit Configurations. Here you can see program arguments have been, text area is there. So I'll just write hello here and I'll just click on OK. Now I'll run the program and I'll see what is the output of the program. Here you can see now the output of the program is first argument is hello. This is what the output we have got it. We can also pass n number of arguments over here separated by either space, tab or new line. I'll show you that also. I'll just say here plus and second argument is, I'll say plus args of 1. That means I am trying to display both the arguments, first argument and second argument. So first argument will be stored at index number 0 and second argument will be stored in index number 1. So first I have to set 2 arguments, but I have set only 1 argument. So I can again go back to Run menu. Or here you can see Run configuration symbol is there. There also you can go to Edit Configurations. Hello, I'll just give space here. I'll write suppose world and I'll just click on OK. Now I'll run the program. See, the output of the program now is first argument is hello and second argument is world. So this is how, see, I have not read the data from the keyboard using the scanner object and all. I have just passed the arguments as the command line in configurations, and those values are acting as the data now and input now, and those inputs we can use it in the given Java program. So this is basically command line argument. So I think the concept is clear. Before going to lab program 1 also, as we know that command line arguments are always of type string. So what if I want to read the value through command line argument, but I want to take it as the respective data type like integer, float, double, and so on. So it is always possible to convert the string type to any other data type. So if you want to deal with that, so type conversion of command line argument is also possible. Now suppose string value you want to convert it into integer one, you can always use this particular statement where you say that int is a data type in which variable I want to store it. Integer is a predefined class. ParseInt. ParseInt is a method name which takes the argument, and that argument is converted into integer, and that value will be stored in the variable one. So this arguments of index is a command line argument, and this command line argument is passed to the method parseInt, which is going to convert a string to the integer value, and the meaning of this method is already stored in the class that is integer. So, and that is of type static. That's why you're making use of integer.parseInt. And this, after conversion, integer value will be stored in the respective variable name of type integer. Same way, you can also convert the string type of data, that is command line argument, into float as well as double using the statements written here. So float, variable name float.parsefloat, and the second type of floating point is double. So there also you can make use of the parse double method and convert it into the double value. So after knowing what is command line argument and how you can convert a string value, that is command line argument, to the respective numeric data type and all, let us see the lab program 1. So we know that lab program 1 is basically, it demands addition of two matrices of suitable order n, and n to be read from command line argument. And as it is written that only one order is given, that means the matrices are of type squared matrices. So only one value or one order we will give it, and that order will act as number of rows as well as number of columns. So only one argument we need to pass it via command line argument, which will act as the order of the matrix. So if we want to add two matrices, we know that first we should know the order of a matrix. Once you know the order of the matrix, based on the order of a matrix, you have to read the elements of a matrix. And after reading the elements of matrix, you have to add those two matrices and put it in the resultant matrix, and resultant matrix we can display it on the screen. So what I have done here is I have just divided this particular logic into multiple methods. One method is to read the elements of a matrix, that is input. So separate method has been created using the name or with the name read matrix, and you have to read the matrix and of that particular order, that is n. And as we are defining these method within the class only, and you will be calling this method within the main method, and main is of type static. So static method can only call other static members. It cannot call non-static members. So it is mandatory that if you're calling a method within the main method, that method should be of type static. So here in this method, what I have written is you are reading the values or the elements of a matrix through keyboard. So we have created an object of scanner, and for the order, that is from 0 to n. So if the order of n is 5, you can say that 0 to 4 will be the number of rows and 0 to 4 will be number of columns. So you have to make use of the nested for loop here, and you will be reading the integer type of that data, and that value will be stored in the respective ith and jth position. So I will resemble, or I will mainly make use of the row number or row index, and j will go for the column index. So this is for reading the elements of a matrix. One more method to add two matrices. So whenever you want to add two matrices, and this method also I'll be calling within the main method, that will be also of type static. So how many arguments do you need it for a matrix? Two matrices which I want to add, and then I have to put it into the resultant matrix and all those matrices of which particular order. And this is what the logic where the addition of two matrices will happen. Again, the number of rows I equal to 0 to n. Within that, j equal to 0 to n, and the matrix 1 of I and j. That means the ith and jth cell value of the matrix will be added with the ith and jth cell of matrix 2, and that value will be stored in the respective cell of the resultant one. This is about how to add to matrices logic. And the third method is to print the elements of a matrix. So print matrix is the name of a method, and that is also been defined as a static one because you will be calling this method within the main method, which is of type static. And we are passing only one argument here because I want to just print whatever matrix I pass it to this particular method, that matrix should be displayed on the screen. So here we have made use of for each loop where you say that you can just read the matrix as the entire collection, and from that collection you will just retrieve the rows first, and after the rows every row will have multiple column values. So row will be retrieved in the second for each loop and that value will be displayed on the screen. So this is what the for each loop in terms of Java to be considered, which is the added iteration or looping statement being added. So here two for each loops, what it will do is the first two-dimensional matrix will be converted into one dimension. One-dimensional values will be retrieved as one value at a time. And once the elements of that particular row and column is over, it automatically comes out of the loop. So these three different methods we have defined for the lab program 1, and these three methods we'll be calling in the main method. So first thing, as we want to read the value through the keyboard, we have to import java.util.scanner class, or you can also write import java.util.star. You have created a class named main. Inside that, you have written a main method with the command line argument. Now the problem statement demands that command line argument should be passed for order of the matrix. So order of the matrix has to be there. If it is not there, then we want to say that, or we want to display that there is insufficient command line argument. So we have written a code here which says that if arguments.length, as arguments is of type string, we can always use the constant value, that is the constant variable name, or length, which will calculate the length of the argument, and which will say if it is not equal to 1, insufficient command line argument, and it should exit the execution of the program. But suppose the argument's length is 1, that means we'll go for the further steps execution. Now suppose I give the order of a matrix as -5, it should not work because order of the matrix can be never negative. It can be always positive. So we can always check. So to check for negative positive, we always know that it should be of type number or numeric one. So it is mandatory to convert the string type to the numeric one. So here I have directly converted it using the method parseInt, which is from the class integer. So we have just written integer.parseInt arguments of 0, which is going to convert a string to the number. And that numeric value will be compared whether it is less than 0. If it is less than 0, then it says that order of matrix cannot be negative and it will exit the program. So these two statements you have written, if the command line argument is not provided, it should say that insufficient command line argument. If you are passing the negative value as order of the matrix or command line argument, it should say that order of a matrix cannot be negative and it should exit the program. And if both of the conditions are correct, that means command line argument is provided. At the same time, the order of the matrix is positive. That means it should read two matrices, then it should add those two matrices, and the matrix should be added in the resultant one and should be displayed on the screen. So we have declared three arrays here, two-dimensional arrays, matrix 1 to represent the first matrix, matrix 2 represent the second matrix, and res represent the third matrix. And n is the order of a matrix, which is the command line argument, that is args of 0. So the first argument, command line argument, you will store it in a variable n. So you'll say integer.parseInt arguments of 0. So string value is converted into number, that is integer, and that is stored in the variable n. Then whatever the value n you have passed, for that n, you have to allocate the memory for the array. In Java, it is must that the array size cannot be directly given in the subscript variable, that is in the square bracket. You have to allocate the memory for the array variable using new as a keyword. So you have to just say matrix 1 is equal to new. That means allocate memory for an array of type integer. And what is the size of a matrix? N cross n. Number of rows is n, number of columns is n. Same way, you will allocate memory for matrix 2 also, and you will allocate memory for result also. Now, after allocation of variables and the memory allocation of the respective matrices, we'll read the elements of first matrix. So thus a message should come that enter elements of first matrix. And as we have already written the method that is read matrix here, that read matrix, I just pass the variable that is matrix 1, comma n. So whatever the n value, as it is of type a static type of method, those values can be automatically taken from the main method as well as from the user-defined method. So matrix 1 I have passed with the size n. It will read the values and it will store it in the matrix 1. Then I'll be reading the elements of second matrix. I'll call the read matrix method by passing the argument that is matrix 2 and n. After reading both the matrices, that is matrix 1 and matrix 2, these two matrices, I'll pass it in the add matrix, add mat type of method, which I have defined. And those two matrices should get added and that value should be stored in resultant and all those matrices of type of size n. Once the addition is also done, now I want to display all those matrices. So you'll see, first we'll display the first matrix, elements of first matrix. So we have already defined the print matrix. That method we'll be calling here to display the elements of first matrix and passing the argument as mat1. Then we'll be displaying the elements of a second matrix, that is matrix 2. And then we'll display the resultant matrix, that is res. So this is about the main method. And after main method, whatever the methods we have defined in the previous slide, those methods we'll write it here within the class, that is main. And then we will close the main. So this is actually the command line arguments value to be read for the size of a matrix or order of a matrix and writing a program in Java. So we'll execute this same program in IntelliJ and we'll see what will be the output of a program. So let us go to IntelliJ IDE. So I'll just see, I've already copied the program here. You can see here, see if the arguments dot length is not equal to 0, this is what it should do. If it is less than 0, what it should do. Otherwise, it can call the methods and those methods also we have defined within the class. Now what I will do is, I'll just go to this file. I'll go to edit configurations. See here, program arguments I have not given. So if you don't give the program arguments and if you try to execute a program, what should be the output? Here you can see, I have not passed any command line arguments, that is arguments length is 0. It is not 1. So it says insufficient command line argument. That means command line argument is not provided. I'll again go to edit configurations. I'll give suppose -5, which is negative. I'll just say okay. I'll run the program again. Here you can see. The output is what? The order of matrix cannot be negative. It has to be always positive. I'll again go to edit configurations. And now suppose I say the order of the matrix is 2, which is, I have passed the argument also, and the order of a matrix is positive. So if I run the program now, we'll see what will be the output. Here you can see it is asking us enter the elements of first matrix. How many elements? 4 elements we have to give because the order of the matrix is 2, that is 2 rows and 2 columns. So I'll just write 1 space 1, enter 1 space 1. Okay. So we have given 4 values. So now it will be asking you the elements of second matrix. Suppose I say 2, then 2. So after reading the second matrix, these two matrices will pass it to the method that is add matrix, and that values will be added and stored in the resultant matrix. So what are the values for the resultant matrix? You can say 0, 0th cell will be added with 0, 0th cell of second matrix. So 1 plus 2 is what? 3. So you can see here. Here, after addition, we are displaying the elements. Elements of first matrix is 1, 1, 1, 1. Elements of second matrix is 2, 2, 2, 2. And the resultant matrix is what? 3. So like this, you can pass any particular order of the matrix via command line argument, and based on the argument value you pass, it will ask you the elements of the matrix, and that will get added. Both the matrices elements will get added and will be stored in the resultant matrix. So this is how the lab program 1 can be demonstrated. I hope all of you understood this and you have learned command line arguments as well. So in the next video session, we'll see the lab program 2, that is stack. Thank you.